Lady, just before we start, I'm honored to find myself in a position to offer you congratulations on your birthday. We will do our best to make the day as enjoyable as possible. And we wish you many more blessed birthdays in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Martins, you still under oath?
Yes, my lady.
Thank you. You still profess to stand. You may be seated if you so wish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam, we will deal with two things that won't be easy, but we have to deal with them. Now, the first issue is I want to ask you for your view, and you were in court when the accused made a public apology. How did you feel about it?
Unfortunately, my lady, I did not feel that the apology was genuine. I remember crying, and it made me realize that, well, it brought back to reality why we were here, and that was because Reva was dead. Unfortunately, it just did not seem sincere.
Then the last issue, madam, is we're dealing with sentence now. You yesterday testified about the first time you met the accused and how you felt about the accused. How do you feel about the accused now, and what are your views on sentence?
I'm very fearful of the accused. I have tried very hard to put him out of my mind. We've even made a point of not mentioning his name in our house because I didn't want to spend any energy thinking about him. This is not hard. This is not easy for me. My lady, I really believe the accused, Mr. Pistorius, needs to pay for what he has done. My family are not people who are seeking revenge. We just feel that to take someone's life, to shoot somebody behind a door that is unarmed, that is harmless, needs sufficient punishment. I was very worried when I was under the belief that prison conditions would be bad for him. When I discovered that his rehabilitation process in prison would actually be humane and keeping within dignity of a human being, I can say honestly to the court that I feel that Mr. Pistorius needs to pay for what he's done, for taking Reva's life, for what he's done to my uncle and to my aunt, what he's done to the rest of my family, but also to what he's done to his family. Everybody has suffered here. And I think we need to give a message to society that you cannot do this and get away with it. I don't feel the suggested punishment would fit the crime. I think we would be enabling him to carry on doing this and to feel within himself that it's okay, that what he's done is all right. And I don't think so. I honestly feel it's not.
Thank you. I have nothing further for this witness.
Thank you, Mr. Nell. Yes, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Ms. Lady. Ms. Martin, just two aspects that I want to raise with you. The one is that you said that Ms. Steenkamp spent Christmas alone. Will you accept it if I put it to you that she had in fact dinner with the accused?
Christmas?
Christmas, yeah. I can give you the details of the place and so on, but unless
If you could
know.
do that, I
What
wouldn't.
year?
I wouldn't.
What year was it?
2012.
2012.
2000.
If you could do that, I would. I was under the impression she
Yes.
spent. I in fact said New Year's alone. New Year. I'm not sure about Christmas, but
Yeah.
I said New Year she spent alone.
Yeah. So they spent Christmas dinner together, and then they spent 5 days in Cape Town together from the 2nd of January 2013 till the 7th of January. Are you aware that Ms. Pistorius, after the incident, very shortly wrote comprehensive letters to the parents, but on advice, and that advice was accepted by Mr. De Bruyn acting on behalf of the parents, it was then decided that he would not hand them over for many reasons that we accepted. Are you aware of that?
Not at all, my lady.
Where he inter alia sincerely apologized and dealt with a lot of emotional issues.
Not at all, my lady.
You have not spoken to him.
I have not spoken to the accused.
Yeah.
No, my lady.
You have not had the opportunity to share his insight, to understand how he feels. You didn't speak to him.
No, my lady.
You also accept, for purposes of your answer, that the conditions in the jail are humane and would provide for a disabled person.
I understand that to be
And
true.
if it does not,
I think for anybody, I would not want that. I would
Thank-
not want that for anybody.
thank you, my lady. If I may just put one thing, I've omitted that and I was reminded.
Yes.
But in view of what you said, I probably erased that from my mind. But I was in any event asked that if the family would consider it to be appropriate at whatever time and date, that the accused would desperately want to privately apologize. That's all I can put to you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you, Madam.
Mrs. Martins, thank you very much for your assistance. You may be excused.
Thank you, my lady.
Please put I call Mr. Modise.
Yes, the witness may be sworn in.
My name is Moleko, M-O-L-E-K-O, Zachariah, Z-A-C-H-A-R-I-A, Isaac, I-S-A-K, Modise, M-O-D-I-S-E.
Any objection in taking the oath?
No, my lady.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Raise your right hand and say so help you God.
So help me God.
You're going to testify in English, Mr. Modise?
That's correct, my lady.
Thank you very much. You may be
Please.
seated if you so wish.
The court indicated that if you feel more comfortable to sit down, you're welcome to. If you feel more comfortable to stand, you're also welcome to.
Thanks, madam.
Mr. Modise, you're the Acting National Commissioner for Correctional Services. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady.
Now, by mere coincidence, as part of your duties yesterday, you were in Parliament.
That's correct, my lady.
And in Parliament, you presented the annual report for correctional services. Am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
And Parliament, as the oversight body, asked you questions, wanted you to report on certain issues that they brought up.
That is correct, my lady.
Also, by mere coincidence, this matter was mentioned in Parliament yesterday.
That is correct, my lady.
You were asked a question that we will ask you today, and that is if you could cater for disabled people within your facilities.
That's correct, my lady.
And to Parliament, you said what?
I said to Parliament, my lady, that the Department of Correctional Services is ready to admit and detain people with disabilities in our facilities.
Let us deal with your experience within the department. Sir, how many years of experience have you had in the department?
My lady, I have 35 years experience in the department.
And this long career, sir, started in Klerksdorp, am I correct?
That is correct, my lady.
You did your basic training and you were then assigned to the Leukop facility.
That's correct.
And from Leukop, you became involved in training of recruits, am I correct?
That is correct, my lady.
And your speciality and training areas?
My lady, I trained officials in 3 areas. It was to perform drill, also to do and understand administration, and also to do musketry.
Then, sir, from there, you spent time at the Grootvlei facility?
That's correct, my lady.
From Grootvlei, you went back home to Boshoff, where you spent about 9 years, am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
And then from there, sir, would you just run with your career?
My lady, I was then transferred to Uppington Correctional Center in the Northern Cape in 1993. And then beginning of 1994, I was transferred to Kimberley Correctional Center. In 1996, my lady.
At Kimberley, your position in Kimberley, sir?
In Kimberley, my lady, I was the senior correctional official responsible for internal and external custody. I was then later transferred to the National Office as an inspector of prisons. Thereafter, I went back to Kimberley, and in 1997, I was promoted to the position of director as the Provincial Commissioner of Correctional Services in the Northern Cape. My lady, I was later transferred and promoted as the Regional Commissioner of the Eastern Cape and was based in Port Elizabeth. During 2000, my lady, amidst a number of issues that had happened in Gauteng, one of them being the inhumane treatment of offenders, but also the appointment of staff that was done on family members. I was then deployed to come and remedy the situation in Gauteng, and then started as the Regional Commissioner of Gauteng.
Now, that then later became known as, the whole investigation became known as the Jolly Commission.
That's correct, my lady. During that time, there was rampant corruption in the department relating to appointment of officials, nepotism, but also a serious manner in which offenders were treated by officials that led to inhumane incarceration. So I was brought here to come and correct that situation, put measures in place. And in the Jolly Commission, I represented the department in the Eastern Cape, in the Free State, as well as in Gauteng, as I had occupied those positions of leadership in those regions.
Now, what flowed from the Jolly Commission?
My lady, as I've indicated, there was rampant corruption, and I had to put measures in place to ensure that we arrest the corruption that was in the department in terms of appointments, in terms of employee relations, but also to put measures in place to the humane incarceration of offenders in accordance to the Act 111 of 1998, but also, importantly, my lady, was to ensure that offender complaints and requests are attended to.
Then, so after the Jolly Commission, you were then transferred in 2003, I think, to the Free State,
That's correct, my lady.
where you dealt with another problem.
My lady, I'm sure it is common knowledge to South Africans that grootvlei was also one of the areas where this rampant corruption was, where the human rights of offenders was not respected, and as such, I was sent there again to go and put measures in place to ensure that there is compliance to legislation, but also, importantly, compliance to the human rights of offenders.
And then, sir, after Grootvlei, you then came to Pretoria to the head office.
My lady, that's correct. I was then brought to the national office to come and head the branch corrections at the level of Deputy Director General.
From there, sir?
My lady, after Gauteng, I was then again brought to, after head office, I was brought again to Gauteng in 2012 to continue with my work of managing and leading the Gauteng region. And then on the 13th of June 2014, that is this year, my lady, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services then appointed me to act as the National Commissioner of Correctional Services.
A position that you're still holding.
That is a position that I'm currently holding, my lady.
Sir, when the department heard of the evidence that was given in court by the probation officer, the department the department volunteered to give evidence and to explain to the court that what the conditions in prison, what the conditions are, and that we can cater for disabled people. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lady.
Sir, you were still in Parliament yesterday and you flew back overnight.
That's correct.
For purposes of your evidence, we prepared a very short document with bullet points that would just assist us through the evidence. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady.
And you have that in front of you. I beg leave just to hand that up for that purpose, my lady. It must be GGGG. We had DDDE. I just don't know if we have F.
I think it's FFF.
The press statement was FFFF.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes. Thank you.
So, if we follow this as just as a guideline to lead your evidence, and we start at paragraph 2, we run and manage the correctional facilities in our country in terms of which act?
My lady, the act that we are managing correctional services is Act 111 of 1998.
Which came into operation when, sir?
On the 1st of October 2014, my lady.
Would you please inform the court what the purpose of the correctional system in the country is?
The purpose of a correctional system is to contribute towards maintaining and protecting a just, peaceful, and safe society by, firstly, enforcing sentences of the court, detaining all inmates in safe custody, whilst ensuring their human dignity, and also promoting the social responsibility and human development of all sentenced offenders.
Now, in 2005, the department adopted a white paper on corrections. Could you just inform the court what that was all about?
My lady, as we were implementing Act 111 of 1998, we were still utilizing the old white paper. It was then imperative that we develop a white paper that would enhance the implementation of Act 111 of 1998. That's why in 2005, after broad consultation, the department then submitted to Parliament a white paper that is called the White Paper on Corrections 2005 that would enhance the implementation of Act 111 of 1998, but importantly, it indicates a departure from the old correctional prison system to a system of corrections in the Republic of South Africa.
Whilst we're there, now, since you joined the department 35 years ago, up until today, there's been lots of development in that particular department, am I correct?
Absolutely, my lady.
And in 2005, that was a huge step in further enhancing this department.
Quite correct, my lady.
Now, sir, at paragraph 6, we deal with admissions. And could you just explain to the court what the powers of the National Commissioner is in terms of the provisions of Section 6(1)(b)?
My lady, in terms of the section, the National Commissioner can detain any offender at any correctional facility in the country, depending on the individual needs of that particular offender.
So there will be facilities in the country that would be able to deal for every kind of need of every individual.
That's correct, my lady.
And you have the power to place a person there.
That's correct, my lady.
Now, to make it possible for you to make an informed decision, in terms of Section 6(5)(b), there's a health status examination. Is that correct?
That's right, my lady.
And that information you will use with recommendations from various people to understand where best a specific inmate should be placed.
That's correct, my lady.
Now, our facilities have what we call health facilities. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady.
I think in a normal day-to-day talk, we refer to it as a hospital section.
That's right, my lady.
Now, is it possible to keep a specific inmate for his term of imprisonment, or portions thereof, at such a facility?
That's correct, my lady.
And that is dealt with in Section 7(2)(d) of the Act.
That's right, my lady.
Also, the Commissioner has the right to accommodate inmates in single cells.
That's correct, my lady.
And that is dealt with in terms of provisions of Section 7(2)(e).
That's correct.
We've dealt yesterday, sir, with the provisions of Section 31C, which makes provision for 31A, for an inmate to request in writing to be placed in a single cell.
That's correct, my lady.
And that happens, am I correct?
That's right, my lady. It happens.
And Section 31C makes provision for a medical practitioner to recommend to the Commissioner that a specific inmate should be kept in a single cell.
That's right, my lady.
Now, sir, for you to decide if a person should be kept in a single cell, how is that decided upon?
My lady, immediately on admission, firstly, we have to do a health assessment of the person that comes to our facility, but also within a very short period of time, the officials that are there, whose main job is to ensure that they do an assessment as to the immediate accommodation and immediate attention, and makes a recommendation to the case management committee. But importantly, my lady, within 21 days, a complete assessment of what are the needs of the offender and also what are his security, in which security classification is to be put in. That is done and provided to a case management committee that will then decide as to where this particular offender is going to be incarcerated and as to whether he would then be in a position to receive all the services that the department provides, being social work services, healthcare services, psychological services, and so forth.
Am I correct that that is referred to as a sentence plan? Within 20 days of incarceration of every person referred to your facilities, you develop a sentence plan within 21 days.
That's correct, Melanie.
But the health assessment is done within 6 hours of admission.
That is correct.
You see, Commissioner, I'm going to deal with certain aspects that became relevant this last week. So the one is, if a specific inmate would want his own medical practitioner to deal with him, is that possible?
That is possible, my lady.
And that is dealt with in the Act?
That is also accommodated in the legislation.
In terms of Section 12(3) of the Act, am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
The department would provide medical attention, but it's by choice and for his own account. An inmate could require that his own practitioner deal with him. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady. But the only important aspect here is that if an inmate decides that he wants to have his own private practitioner, he then or she is liable for the costs.
Yes. But then we deal with Regulation 24A, which deal with the fact that the registered nurse will, upon admission, record any medical assistance device in possession of an inmate.
That's correct, my lady.
Prosthetic legs, would that be classified as a medical assistance device?
That's correct, my lady.
And then in terms of Section 24, Regulation 24B, such devices may not be removed without written instruction of the medical attending to this inmate. Am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
Now, we will deal with a concern raised by a probation officer about the fact that the accused's prosthetic legs may be taken away, but we'll deal with it at a bit later. Let us just deal with complaints. If a specific inmate would have a complaint, what avenues are open for such a person?
My lady, it is policy that officials of the department must on a daily basis interact with each and every offender, establish what their complaints and requests are. Also, we have within the legislation of correctional services a section that specifically deals with the Judicial Inspectorate of Correctional Services, who has appointed independent correctional center visitors that must also, during their work, take complaints and requests of any offender at any time. And I think once they have a report, is to submit that report to the head of the center, but also in the same time copy the office of the inspecting judge. The offender, if there is no joy in the complaints that he has raised, what then happens is he raises those complaints to the head of the center, to the regional commissioner, and then at the end, those complaints and requests should be channeled to the national commissioner for his personal attention.
But, sir, the point we have to make is the following, that it's up to an inmate to either report to the authorities within that facility or to the independent correctional services. There's not a specific line he has to follow the internal path, he could directly report any complaints to the independent correctional center visitors.
That's correct, madam.
And those people, the independent correctional center visitors, they report to
They report to the inspecting judge of correctional service, madam.
Then, apart from the complaints and the visits by the independent correctional service center visitors, we have access to correctional centers by judges and magistrates. Am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
And that's dealt with in terms of Section 99 of the Act.
That's correct.
Could you just deal with that, sir, at the top of page 3?
My lady, judges and magistrates, in terms of Section 99(1), have access to any part of a correctional center, interview any inmate, and bring any matter to the attention of the minister, the national commissioner, or the inspecting judge. And Section 99(3), my lady, pertains to the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services that from time to time visit our facility and interview offenders. Also, the National Council of Provinces that can visit our facilities. And also we have the National Council on Correctional Services that from time to time go into facilities, look at what the situation is, and interview offenders. But I think importantly also, my lady, is to mention the fact that even the judges in the Constitutional Court from time to time visit our facilities.
And so, it is correct that they would all visit, but during visits they would talk to the inmates, take complaints from inmates, and deal with those. Am I correct?
That's correct, madam.
So let us deal with the assessment upon admission. That is done in terms of Section 38 of the Act. Am I correct?
That's right, my lady.
Please inform the court what happens when an inmate is taken up in your facilities and what assessment's done.
My lady, as I've indicated that within 6 hours on admission, there has to be done a health assessment. What are the needs of this person? And also within a period of 21 days, we then do a complete assessment that includes security classification for us to be able to know exactly where to accommodate this person. We again look at his health needs, what treatment is undertaking and what treatment can be afforded, but also look at what are his social and psychological needs. We then determine at the end, once we have done that assessment, where this particular person has to be placed. But what we do not lose sight of, because there are a lot of different categories of offenders that come to our facilities. Some are elderly people, some are juvenile, who have different vulnerabilities. We then determine where this person is going to be accommodated.
Taking into account all the specific vulnerabilities.
Absolutely, my lady.
And it's not only people with disability that would be vulnerable, as you said, the youthful people, older people, and you have to cater for all of those.
We have to cater for all of those categories, my lady.
But that is now the physical assessment of health needs, but there's also what we refer to as softer issues, spiritual well-being and social well-being of accused. You also focus on that, am I correct?
My lady, that's correct. We look into what are the spiritual needs. We conduct group sessions. We also allow individual sessions with particular offenders who may be in need of spiritual care services, social work services, and psychological services.
And you offer educational programs?
My lady, we do offer education, ABET, mainstream, and also tertiary education in our facilities, and also skills training for all offenders in whose sentence plan it has been decided that he or she must undergo this training.
We attempted to draft a list, but we make it clear it's including all these things in that list, but not limited to. Am I right?
That's correct, my lady.
Would you just run through that, sir?
My lady, these are the programs that the department offers to those that are entrusted to its care to ensure insight into their offending behavior, but also to ensure that they are rehabilitated. These include anger management. We provide life skills. We also provide substance abuse. We provide for marriage and family counseling. As I've said, my lady, we provide also programs on formal education that includes higher education and tertiary, but that would be at own cost. As I've said, skills development that include spray painting, mechanical engineering, building, electrical engineering, plumbing, etc. But we also provide job opportunities for offenders. We have huge agricultural fields where offenders are tilling the land to ensure that we are, in a way, providing for our own needs in terms of vegetables. We also do have textile workshops, my lady, and also steel and carpentry, where we manufacture our own furniture and also manufacture furniture for other departments. And also, my lady, as I've said, in some of our facilities, offenders are cooking for themselves. We ensure that they are cooks, they are trained to cook food for themselves. And in cases where we have outsourced that, we ensure that they are also given that skill and at the end are certificated. And cleaning their own facility, cleaning their own cell, doing their own washing, their own laundry. And my lady, gardening as well, because our facilities also needs to be kept clean. So that when people visit correctional centers, they are then able to see what is it that our offenders are doing. I think all in all, those are the programs that are 11 in total.
Let us just deal with the sport and recreational facilities that are available.
My lady, there are sports and recreation facilities. In fact, we have a chief directorate that is responsible for sports, recreation, arts and culture. We have programs of offenders that are doing artwork, painting. We also have offenders that are taking part in athletics, in soccer, in rugby, in boxing. Just to mention that this year, and which is an annual event, we had an athletics championship which was held at Rustenburg in the Northwest.
Yeah, so in preparation for your evidence today, you asked one of the officials to visit the local facility in Pretoria. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lady.
The person that visited the local facility was Ms. Ndlovu, who's also in court.
That's correct, my lady. Ms. Vui Mlomo Ndlovu, who is a chief director and also a psychologist on her own.
And she went to the facility, she inspected the facility, and whilst being there, took photographs and consulted with you.
That's correct, my lady.
And the facility that one would, in a normal scope of events, identify for an accused like Mr. Pistorius, there were training equipment next door.
There is training equipment, my lady, at each and every center, and in Pretoria as well, my lady, which is called now Kgoshi Mampuru II. We have a gym at the central. We have a gym also at the local correctional center.
And apart from the big gyms, there are equipment throughout the prison in sections that people could use.
That's correct, my lady. Including the hospital unit, we do have a smaller gym there.
Great. Now, sir, let us just deal with the psychological services that you provide. So let's deal with that. We're at page 4. In terms of the regulations, Regulation 10, we dealt with it yesterday fleetingly in cross-examination, but in all facilities, you have to ensure that there are psychological services available to all sentenced inmates. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady.
And can you confirm that in terms of Regulation 3B, an inmate may utilize his or own psychologist of choice, but at an expense?
That's correct, my lady.
In preparation for your evidence overnight and yesterday, you've listed the available people to deal with psychological services. Could you just inform the court, please?
My lady, the report that I have received with regard to my question yesterday as to what are the services that are being provided to all categories of offenders, especially those that are sentenced. At Kgoshi Mampuru, which all courts in Pretoria fit into, we have 5 psychologists, 14 social workers, we have 50 healthcare workers, and 1 resident medical practitioner.
Now, so there were evidence led about gangsterism and assaults, and it's not something that the correctional services has ever denied. Am I correct?
That's correct, madam.
Could you just explain to the court what strategies you have in place and how you're dealing with this?
My lady, in our facilities in the country, we have gangs that are operating, gangs that are trying to take over the running of the center, gangs that are recruiting other new members. As a department, we have developed an anti-gang strategy, and that strategy was broadly consulted with the national intelligence community, the South African Police Services, because, my lady, some of the gang leaders that operate in our environment come to correctional services already being gang leaders. So this phenomenon finds itself also in our communities throughout the country. So this strategy, firstly, is to make our officials aware that in this environment, this is this kind of gang that is operating, and also to inform offenders as to how to report gang activities. Now, that is entirely equipping our officials to deal with the situation. It also differs from correctional center to correctional center, my lady. That you'll find in the Western Cape, you'll find the number gang being in the majority, whereas in other regions of the country, you then find where there are no gangs at all and the institution is running properly in terms of the law. But I can assure this court that the Department of Correctional Services is dealing with the issue of gangsterism, but we're doing that in partnership with the South African Police Services and our intelligence community.
But there are various ways to mitigate against the risk of gangsterism and assaults, one being that if an inmate is kept in a single cell.
That is correct, my lady.
And this same kind of phenomena is also not rife at the, hospital sections. But
my lady, at your hospital unit, you have also single cells where you can, on request of the offender first, but also on the request of the medical practitioner, where you can accommodate a person for a period of time. And if at any time there is this assessment that this person will be taken advantage of, it is then the responsibility of officials and management at that institution to ensure that this person is kept separate from others that might want to take advantage and exploit his or her vulnerabilities.
And one of the main, just tell me if I'm correct, one of the main ways to mitigate the risk is the separation of your vulnerable offenders from these areas that this may exist. Am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
So, it's been discussed and well documented that as a department, you have inherited facilities that's been there for a very, very long time.
My lady, that is correct. We have our very old facilities, and it is the department's intention to modify these facilities so as to make them conducive to, firstly, humane incarceration, but also to ensure that we are able to implement corrective and rehabilitative programs to offenders. Also, my lady, important is to take note as to the departure from having facilities that only warehouse people to move to the new generation type of correctional facilities that is facilities like the 2 private prisons, the one in Mangaung in the Free State, the other one in Kutamas in Timule, but also, my lady, in each and every region where we are building, we ensure that our facilities are in line with the white paper on corrections. That's why we have in Empangeni a facility there that is called Kalakabusha, whose aim is to ensure that those that go in there, when coming out, are improved persons and have at least a qualification or a skill that they have acquired whilst they have been there. And this is the trend that we're taking forward. But importantly, my lady, is what the stakeholders that operate in our environment bring to our facilities to ensure that correction and rehabilitation does take place. So, my lady, yes, our facilities are old, but still compare favorably. In fact, in the continent of Africa, there are no better facilities than those that we have in our country, and compares favorably well with facilities that I have visited in my work and profession. In the UK, compares favorably with facilities in New York. I had an opportunity to visit the Sing Sing correctional facility, my lady, where offenders are just locked up behind the grill. There is absolutely no privacy, and those are the facilities that from time to time, as a department, we do insight, introspection, and ask ourselves, are we in line with the constitution of this country, where people that have been incarcerated and sentenced, do they or are they being treated in terms of the Bill of Rights?
Now, then, so we make apart from the new facilities that we build, we also have a program of renovation and fixing up the facilities that we have currently.
That is correct, my lady.
One could perhaps use as an example the CMAX facility in Pretoria, which is state-of-the-art new generation facility, am I correct?
My lady, the CMAX correctional facility, as we speak, is under a complete repair and renovation. Firstly, to bring it in line with the Bill of Rights, to ensure that offenders are held there in cells that would not unnecessarily cause that their humane incarceration is compromised. But, my lady, furthermore, at our institutions, especially because of the fact that we have been admitting people with disabilities for a long time now, we have modified entrances to our facilities. We have put up ramps in our toilets where we have people with disabilities. We have put up rails in our bath facilities, showers, as well as where we have baths. We have also put up rails for us to be able to cater for people with disabilities.
Let us just stop there, Commissioner. You see, because there was a witness here yesterday that testified that she knows for a fact that we don't, in the facilities, we don't have rails in showers and toilets. You deny that.
My lady, that is not correct. We have put up rails at our facilities. I think, my lady, there is this challenge in our country where from time to time people who want to talk about correctional services having had done a desktop exercise. And now it is important that people must get into our facilities to have a proper, informed assessment and perception of what the department is doing.
By mere coincidence, Ms. Ndlovu, that visited the local facility yesterday, took photographs of the showers and the toilets where the rails are clearly visible.
That is correct, Mali.
And she also took photographs of baths being available that you saw and that she reported to you.
That's correct, Mali.
And that happened yesterday.
That happened yesterday, Mali.
Sir, let us just deal with the management of disabled inmates. That's at page 5, please.
Yes, my lady.
Would you please inform the court about your policy?
My lady, the department has an approved policy for the management of people with disabilities, and we can confirm in this court that we also provide accommodation for all disabled inmates, thereby ensuring that we are catering for their needs.
And during the last 10 years, we dealt with that yesterday, but can you confirm that on average, on a yearly basis, 120 inmates were admitted to your facilities over the last 10 years? 128 inmates per year, am I correct?
My lady, just a correction. My report is that we deal with 128 disabled inmates on a daily basis.
Okay, that's what you're dealing with. And that would include?
My lady, that include blindness or visual impairment, physical disability, which includes paraplegic, hemiplegic, and partial or total amputations of the limbs, fingers or toes.
If there'll be a question to you, and we're just dealing with Kgosi Mampuru II, would the facility be able to cater for an accused like Mr. Pistorius with his disability at that specific facility?
My lady, should it be the decision of this court that the accused is sent to Kgosi Mampuru, we will be able to accommodate him.
And to treat him humanely during his period of incarceration?
Absolutely, my lady. The department shall ensure that his human rights are respected within the limitation that goes with incarceration, because detained people have limitation of rights as well. But I think with regard to his health care needs, my lady, he shall be treated properly.
Now, we also have visited the Kgosi Mampuru, the second hospital section, and you can confirm that we have single cells available, showers with rails, and baths. Am I correct?
That's correct, my lady. At our single cells at Kgosi Mampuru, there is a toilet. There is also a basin. There is also a bed with a mattress that shall also be provided with blankets and a sheet, including a pillow, my lady.
And a cupboard.
And a cupboard to put his private...
so every single cell would have that in it?
Absolutely, my lady.
Now, sir, also we had statements about overcrowding, and that's not something that the department is denying that we're dealing with. We have overcrowded prisons, am I correct?
My lady, that is correct. Especially our correctional facilities that are situated in our metropoles in the country are seriously overcrowded, largely by remandees, those that are awaiting trial, my lady. But what is important is to indicate what has been the progress that the department has achieved the past 5 years to now in dealing with overcrowding. My lady, some years ago we were at 185,000 offenders in our facilities throughout the country. And as we speak now, our totals have come down dramatically to 157,000. So the department, together with its partners in the criminal justice system, are working daily, my lady, to ensure that those that are awaiting trial, which we call remandees now, cases move faster, and in cases where people are released on own accord, the court applies its mind and decides that. But in cases where the court also is of the opinion that this person can be released on bail, being monitored by the Department of Correctional Services, and that's what is happening. And we're working, my lady, to bring that 157 even down to a manageable total of around 130%. 130,000, I'm sorry.
I think if one just look at figures, in 2005, the overcrowding stood at 63%, am I correct?
That's correct, my lady.
And now we're standing at 31.
That is correct, my lady.
Now, sir, we had general statements about conditions of prison and gangsterism and assaults. Now, all those generalized comments, are those unique to South Africa prisons, or would one find them all over the world in prisons?
My lady, as I've said earlier, in my appointment or in my position, I visited a number of countries in the continent, specifically looking at what is it that we can learn as best practice, but also to look at their situation. We have, with the team, also visited UK prisons and also visited in the USA, including Brazil, in South America. My lady, there are three things that are common: gangsterism, overcrowding, and unauthorized items in our facilities. Unauthorized meaning you get where there are cell phones in correctional centers, there is drugs in correctional centers, there is also sharpened objects to injure other offenders. So those are the three common, my lady.
So we have in the past year had to defend and present our correctional facilities to international courts. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady.
Could you just inform the court, please?
My lady, there were 3 applications for us to bring some of the people that have committed criminal acts in the Republic who have fled South Africa or who have gone to other countries. The first one to mention, my lady, where the department, together with the Judicial Inspectorate of Correctional Centers and the National Prosecuting Authority, had to give testimony, was with regard to Mr. Shrin Diwane. For him to have been brought to the country was as a result of the submissions that we did ourselves, inspecting judge, as well as the NPA, to assure the international community that in South African correctional system, there are places that we can accommodate people like Mr. Shrin Diwane, who feels very vulnerable and who have his own fears. But also, my lady, we have 2 other applications that we have successfully, and even including on appeal, were successful to bring 2 so-called criminals to the country. They are currently being held in Johannesburg for them to come and stand trial in this country for crimes that they committed and then ran away. Thereby, my lady, we're trying to say, having a look at our environment, our situation as a department, we are in a position to compare favorably and fairly with other correctional systems in the world.
It's also so that the inspecting judge, Judge Van Zyl, gave evidence in the UK about the facilities in South Africa. Is that correct? It wasn't only a department that presented the facilities.
That is correct, my lady. At that time, when he was the Judicial Inspectorate of Correctional Services, Judge Van Zyl gave testimony, and now recently, my lady, Judge Vugachabalala was also on video link with the courts in the UK, where it was finally decided that Shrin Diwani must come to the Republic to come and face his court. So, my lady, our facilities, yes, we would not deny the fact that some of them are very old, some of them are used to warehouse, but we do have built in each and every region a facility where we are able to cater for people with disabilities and any other category of a person that any court can send to us for rehabilitation and correction.
Now, sir, then the reason why the state requested you to give evidence is, as the head of correctional services in South Africa currently, can you give this court assurance that if this accused would be referred to any of your facilities, you would be able to cater for this particular accused and his specific needs?
My lady, I can confirm confidently in this court that if at any stage the court decides that the accused be sent to a correctional facility, and here I want us to be specific, my lady, because this court fits into Koshimampuru, which is just around the corner, a few streets away here. In Koshimampuru II, my lady, there are facilities where we can incarcerate and accommodate the accused. We have facilities that would cater for his disability, and there should be no doubt in the minds of South Africans that Mr. Pistorius or any other accused with disabilities shall be accommodated properly at that institution.
Thank you, my lady. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Nali. Yes, Mr. Roo?
Thank you, my lady. Mr. Modise, I really have no difficulty that you really bona fide and genuine in your approach, and it's good to hear that you want to do something about our correctional services. Let me start with that. And it was interesting for me to hear that you were in Parliament yesterday. And how did it go there?
My lady, we were in Parliament since Tuesday. Tuesday we did the annual report of the Judicial Inspectorate that was done by Judge Vugachabalala, because they are an oversight entity over correctional services. We were also called there. And yesterday, my lady, because when you do an annual report, it is preceded by a stakeholder engagement. Yesterday, we did our own stakeholder engagement first, and then in the afternoon, we're supposed to have provided our own report on the performance of the department in the 2013 financial year.
I want to read something to you, and you can tell me if it's correct or incorrect.
That's correct, my lady.
And what I will read from is the Star newspaper, and you must tell me what's correct and incorrect. That October 15, 2014. Have you seen that report?
No, my lady, I've not had an opportunity of reading newspapers.
It deals with you, the Acting National Commissioner of Prisons, Zach Modise. That is you, in fact.
I beg your pardon?
There's a reference to the Acting National Commissioner of Prisons, Zach Modise. Is that you?
That is me, my lady.
Yes. Let me then read it to you. The Department of Correctional Services has come under fire in Parliament for the increase in torture cases when there is a new law banning the torture of prisoners. Did that happen at Parliament?
My lady, there was this allegation.
Yeah. NGOs. What is an NGO?
NGO, my lady, is a non-governmental organization.
And who would it be in this case in relation to correctional services?
My lady, there were a lot of them. We had NICRO there. We had Just Detention, my lady. We had Vet Justice Project. We had Sonke there, my lady.
They're basically good people, good entities.
My lady, it depends.
Who are not good of them?
It depends, my lady, on what are the objectives of this NGO. And I want to put this, my lady, in perspective. There are these NGOs, my lady, that operate in our environment, who come and do research, and without verifying their findings would publicize those findings. And that is why I'm saying it depends who the NGO is.
Well, let's look at these that you name. NICRO is quite well known.
NICRO, my
what
lady.
What do you think about them?
NICRO, my lady, well known, excellent partner for correctional services.
Wits Law Clinic?
Wits Justice Project.
And the Justice Project, I'm
my
sorry.
lady, no, my lady. Wits Justice Project is being led by two journalists that are writing articles for the Mail and Guardian, one of them being Ruth Hopkins. And their objective, my lady, is to write anything that is negative that they have sourced by themselves. For instance, my lady, what happens is they make it a point that they provide to officials that are unscrupulous of the department to take pictures of scenes in a center and also provide that to offenders. So you'll find from time to time in the media space, you'll find articles about correctional services that have not been verified, but that have been taken at a particular time so as to depict the Department of Correctional Services in a negative light.
I understand it, but we're not talking here about one NGO. We say NGOs told MPs, that's Member of Parliaments.
That's right.
Yesterday they were extremely concerned about the continued assault and, in particular, torture of inmates by prison officials. Was that one of the complaints?
My lady, as I said, this is the allegation that was received yesterday by ourselves and the Portfolio Committee.
Yes. Now, I will come to court orders, recent court orders granted against the department.
That's correct, my
That it
lady.
would not be only allegations where people did not get their medication, a person that could not walk had to go to court because he was not looked after. I will come to that. Let's go through this.
I'll appreciate that, my lady.
Figures presented before Parliament from the Judicial Inspectorate of Prisons showed, and they must be quite credible, not so, the Judicial Inspectorate of Prisons. That's a credible body.
The Judicial Inspectorate, credible, my lady.
Yeah. Showed that incidents of assaults and torture have increased from 71 cases last year to 109. That was in Parliament?
My lady, the report by the Judicial Inspectorate was particular to assault. However, the Judicial Inspectorate is saying there may be acts of torture that it would be important to look into so as to determine as to whether there was actual torture and what are the actions that have been taken against offending officials.
What's another subject is, there was also a rise in the use of force by prison officials against inmates from just 3 cases in 2010 to 191 in 2014. Was that in Parliament?
That's correct, my lady. And I think, my lady, we need to provide perspective there, my lady. In the period that is mentioned, there had to be interventions in correctional facilities, my lady, because of the gang activities that were taking place. One of those areas is the Nelson Mandela Metropole, where we have the notorious St. Albans Correctional Center. But, my lady, also, we had, as a department, to take complete operations of Mangaung Correctional Center in Bloemfontein, which is a private institution, where gangs have run amok, were stabbing officials in the morning, in the evening, throughout the day. So as a department, we stepped in. And as we step in, my lady, We take complete control of the institution. We put in a lock mode so that offenders are behind bars. We then search the institution to uncover unauthorized items.
But
That's
then-
how we operate.
But then the horse has bolted. Something has happened, and you stop it then.
No, my lady, what happened is, as we speak now, my team is still in St. Albans. And also, my lady, what happened in Mangaung, once we have put normality in the operations of that institution, we then again hand it over to the operating contractor, because we are contractually bound to allow that facility and Kutama to be run by private institutions.
Do you, in your position, know of threats from the inside of the prison against Mr. Pistorius?
No, my lady, I don't know about any threats against Mr. Pistorius.
That's strange, because it was well published in newspapers,
No, my
in
lady,
many newspapers.
Mr. Pistorius has never been to any of our facilities, so...
No, my question is different. Do you know, in your capacity, of any threats from prisoners against Mr. Pistorius that should he receive treatment other than the treatment they receive?
No, my lady, I'm not aware of that.
Don't they bring, and I don't know, maybe someone else will get that, when there are newspaper reports of this, don't they bring that to your attention?
No, my lady. I'm not aware of any threats.
Yes. Do you know who the head is of the 26ers gang?
I beg your pardon, my lady?
The head of the 26ers gang in Kosimampuru prison?
My lady,
Kali Sabji.
I don't know
You don't know.
the head of the 26 gang. I'm informed that there is a person that is operating there who's claiming to be the head of
Yes.
the 26.
Kali Sabji, does that ring a bell?
I've heard of Kali Sabji, my lady.
Also known as the General?
My lady, if you are if you are a head of a gang, you are called a general.
Well, it goes further than that. It's the same man that stabbed Darby Lewis and Valus Janus.
No, my lady, I need to correct that. This person that it is being referred to only stabbed Mr. W. Lewis, my lady. And what had happened, which is strange, my lady, because we are investigating that. This particular person had been staying with Clive W. Lewis and Janus Walus for a long period of time. Actually, he was their cleaner. Now, something must have gone wrong between W. Lewis and the sub-G, and that is when he stepped in. But what is also, my lady, for us as a department, an area of concern, is that we have indicated to Mr. W. Lewis that, listen, Mr. W. Lewis, because you have been stabbed by a person at Central, and you have been given treatment, it is time that you must come back. His physician is adamant that Mr. W. Lewis must stay at the hospital. So there are a number of factors that are playing a role here. And it is unfortunate that this case, because it is one of those cases that the minister has to apply his mind, is being brought here as a matter that needs to be clarified. I don't think, my lady, talking about W. Lewis here, it is correct, as he has put in an application against the Minister of Correctional Services and Justice.
It is not about his case. I'm not interested in his case, Mr. Modise. It's that I identify a person to you, and I show to you that person will not just say something. He has done something. But we'll deal with newspaper reports because they may be false. We'll deal with it, but I want your comment. I want to read something from the Citizen and tell me, what do you know about this? When it says, this thug, that's a reference to Mr. Kali Sabji, the general, the gang leader of the 26ers. It says, using a prison call box, this jailbird promised Pistorius hell, saying his wealth would not buy him a lavish prison lifestyle. Instead, he would be taken out. It never came to your attention. It's
No,
published
my
in newspaper. And not only this newspaper.
No, my lady, I'm not aware of that.
Now, I'll come back to this topic in detail, but one thing that I want to commend you on, in fact, is this, that over the years, I've had some involvement with correctional supervision, and I think you will agree with me that the department's really doing well in that section. Its monitoring has improved greatly. Is that correct?
My lady, yes, it is correct that it has improved.
It is, in fact, I think that I can say safely to you the standard is high. The Department of Correctional Supervision standards are high. It's a good department.
My lady, it depends on how you look at it. And maybe I need to explain here, my lady. The Department of Correctional Services, in its endeavor to reduce overcrowding, and also because it was an international approach, had decided that we are going to have 3 core functions. 3 core functions, first one being remand for awaiting trial offenders, the second one being correction and incarceration, and then the last one being community correction, what we call social reintegration. So ours was to look at what are the pressures in remand, what are the pressures here, what can we do to reduce these 2 pressures. That's why we established this. Unfortunately, my lady, because we are also in the same boat as any other department, we submit bids to National Treasury to augment this arm of our work. And we're improving, but we are not there where we would like to be, because once we are here, the pressures that we experience here in incarceration can then be diverted to this area. So at this point in time, with the little that we have, we are successful, but we are not where we want to be.
Yes, but it's improving.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And listening to your evidence, you're really a great supporter of the principles and recommendations in the white paper.
Of course, my lady.
Yes. If I may read to you section or clause 11.5.2 thereof, it says the courts need to make a greater commitment to consider the individual circumstances of each offender. And in this instance, the court should consider imposing non-custodial sentences for disabled offenders. That's one of the recommendations there.
That's correct, my lady.
The department should also use the system of ongoing assessments to consider referrals, depending on the nature of the crime, to court for conversion of sentences of disabled offenders to correctional supervision and community service.
That's correct, my lady.
And you do that actively, the department does that actively.
My lady, what we do, my lady, after our assessment, and importantly, applying our minds to the nature of the crime, we advocate non-custodial sentence.
Yes.
So for us, the nature of the crime, but also importantly, is to establish as to whether the person that committed the crime has developed insight in his offending behavior. That's what this is all about, to develop insight and then thereafter to place this person outside. So we would like to be given the opportunity to ensure that whoever is brought to us in our rehabilitation endeavors, we develop insight so that we then try to make sure that there won't be any re-offending that will take place.
Now, if I look at your document, FF, at page 5,
No, that's GGG.
was it G?
Yes.
I apologize, my lady. G.
WG.
It deals with management of disabled inmates.
That's correct, my lady.
And then it talks about, in that context, my understanding, of the facilities at Kgosi Mampuru 2, the Pretoria, the hospital section.
Yes, my lady.
Why was there reference to the hospital section?
Oh, my lady, reference is made to this section because if we have any person with disability, we would accommodate them in that institution, in that facility.
Why?
My lady, it's because it has been customized by ourselves to accommodate people with disabilities.
So your feel is that if a person with disabilities is sentenced to imprisonment, that he should not go to the local jail, but that he should go to the hospital section?
My lady, the,
short.
the hospital section is situated inside the center.
We understand that.
It's important to note, my
Yes,
lady.
but my question remains. He should not go in a normal, if there's a word like that, prison. He should go to the hospital section.
Of course, my lady, because we know that a person who's disabled has got vulnerabilities.
Yes.
That's right.
Now, I just want to understand it, Mr. Modise.
Thank you.
So, in your case, what you say, that Mr. Pistorius should not go to the normal prison. I put normal in inverted commas. He should go to the hospital section.
He should go to a unit in the correctional facility that is earmarked to accommodate people with disabilities.
But let's give it the name that you've given it. It's fine. The hospital section.
That's correct, my lady.
Yes. Because there's a bath there.
That's correct, my lady.
How many baths?
My lady, I do not have the number of baths, but there are baths there in the hospital.
How many baths are there in the other section, the normal section?
In the normal sections, there are no baths, my lady. There are showers.
Yes. And how many shower doors are there
Where, my lady?
in the normal section?
In the normal section, my lady, you have, as you enter into the facility, you have your ablution section, and also that's where we have, in most cases, 2 showers, and it has bedwing doors.
The doors are the doors not broken off? Let me first ask you. And I tell you why I ask you these questions, because let me disclose to you. Since the evidence came out, like Mr. Nell, like me, I received, and maybe they're all untrue, many calls from wardens telling me that there are no baths in a normal prison but for the hospital section, telling me the shower doors are broken, telling me the tiles are broken and it's hard cement floors. Is that all untrue?
My lady, what is being put to me is not true. And secondly, my lady, it is very interesting that correctional officials should be calling Mr. Roo. It's very interesting.
That's how it works, unfortunately. Now, what is not true and what I've put to you? There are no baths, that's true.
My lady, I've stated that there are baths in our hospital unit. In our cells, where we keep other offenders, we have showers.
Yes. So it's true that there are no baths. That's what I'm asking you.
There are no baths in
Yes.
the cells where we accommodate normal offenders, but there are baths in the cells where we accommodate people with
Yeah.
disabilities.
It's true that there are no shower doors.
No, my
Or is
lady,
it
it is
false?
not true.
Are there shower doors, Mr. Modise?
My lady, I've stated that there are shower doors, and I've said bedwing doors.
When last have you seen the shower doors?
My lady, I'm staying on the terrain at Pretoria, and as last week I was at Pretoria Management Area.
And
That is called Koshimampuku II.
did you go in the showers and saw the doors there?
My
Because
lady-
we can ask later to go out and see for ourselves. I just want the answer from you.
My lady, that is what I've said. I've said that there are doors at the showers.
All the showers.
My lady, those that I have visited, and as far as my knowledge goes, there should and there is doors at the showers. If there are no doors, there are these plastic curtains that are put up.
Yes. But I don't want to argue with you, Mr. Modise, because one thing I understand from you, and you're a professional person with great experience, is that what would be suitable or not suitable for Mr. Pistorius is the general section. What is suitable is the hospital section. In short. Is that a fair statement of your evidence?
My lady, can I be assisted with a repeat?
Of course. My understanding of your evidence, taking now Mr. Pistorius' situation, what is not suitable to him is the normal or the general prison. What is suitable is the hospital section for his specific needs. Is that a fair summary?
No, that's a fair summary.
Yes. So we don't have to waste time on anything outside the hospital section. That's what I'm trying to say. Will that be fair?
My lady, I'm not aware that I'm wasting time.
No, I say I don't have to. I always waste time. I don't have to waste time. You've made a concession. That section is not suitable for him. The hospital section is suitable. Can I move on there?
My lady, I think I've responded to
Yes.
that question. If I can be assisted by this court.
Now, do you know of cases where inmates complained to courts that they were not getting medical care, medical services, despite complaints through the channels, and had to go to courts and then were granted successful court orders? Do you know of any such cases?
My lady, I've received reports, but I do not have specific cases, but I know that there are offenders that have found relief in court applications.
And who would be the person in the department dealing with that, with all those cases? To tell us how many there are, how many successes there are?
My lady, our legal unit deals with all litigations against the state.
You don't work with it specifically, I understand that. You have to delegate.
My lady, not specifically, but I do get reports.
Do you know how many such cases were there in 2014?
No, my lady, I don't have that information right now.
Can you remember if it's a great number, small number?
My lady, I don't think it's a great number. It
But
should
you
be
don't know.
I don't know if it's a great number, yes, my lady.
Now, how does it work with the single cells?
Single cells, my lady,
Yes.
is what we call our special care unit. In each and every correctional facility, you have this unit where you can accommodate your offenders who have vulnerabilities, disabled people, the elderly, juveniles. And what normally happens is, my lady, we put there a nurse and one of our senior officials to be able to monitor and manage. Now, that is what we identify. But what is also important, my lady, is from time to time we receive from offenders requests to be accommodated in single cells, which the head of the center should consider, and where it is possible, where there is accommodation, to place those offenders in the single cells. Some of them would say, we want to study. Others would say because of fears of them being assaulted by other offenders.
I understand that. But I'm only dealing with the hospital section because we're not going to go back to what we've dealt with. How many single cells are there in the hospital section?
My lady, no, I don't have the number, but there are single cells that I know of.
Approximately, Mr. Commissioner, approximately.
No, my lady, I don't know.
How many inmates are there in the hospital section?
My lady, I think we can provide that information if we are given time. I don't have it now.
Maybe, if I may ask you, because you're a very important person. I don't want to cross-examine you on things that you don't know. Maybe if we ask the court maybe for a bit of an earlier adjournment, that you just find out more information about the health facility or the hospital section, that I can ask you about that. Can you do that if the court would permit me?
My lady, if it is in the court's consideration, I'll appreciate that.
Yes. And then I don't want to ask questions, and maybe if you can get the opportunity to get the information about it.
Yes. What's your time?
And maybe to adjourn just after the tea time. I see it's now just past 11. Gives him a 15 minutes and then a 15 minutes tea
So
time.
what exactly do you need? What do you want?
Any possible information, all possible information can
You'll
get
deal with that during
about the hospital section.
adjournment. You'll deal with that during adjournment.
He can make the phone calls and so on, maybe, and I will also.
Okay. You want a normal adjournment?
No, my lady, only if we can start the normal time, 11:30, that will give us half an hour.
Okay, no, that's fine. Before we adjourn, earlier when Mr. Roo wished me well for my birthday, on my birthday, I failed to acknowledge the applause from the gallery. I wish to do so now. Thank you very much to everyone. Court will adjourn. Mr. Modise? Mr. Modise,
Thank you, my lady.
you still under oath?
That's correct, my lady.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Roux.
Thank you, my lady. Mr. Modise, did you manage to speak to people during the adjournment?
That's correct, my lady.
Now let's start there. Who did you speak to?
I spoke to Director Joe Makhoba. He is the Deputy Area Commissioner of Koshimampuru.
If I may ask you if you could speak up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. My lady, I was saying, I spoke to Mr. Joe Makhoba, who is the Deputy Area Commissioner of Koshimampuru II.
Yes, and who else?
I only spoke to him.
I see a person in court that you also spoke to, next to you, sitting next to Mr. Nell.
My lady, I was speaking to Ms. Vuyi Mlomo Ndlovu.
Yeah. And she's?
She is the Director in Correctional Services.
And who else?
And I wanted water from the gentleman next to...
And his surname is?
Mr. Engelbrecht.
Now let's see, from Mr. Director Joe Makhoba, what information did you get from him?
The information, my lady, was pertaining to the question that had been put to me with regard to the hospital section in Koshimampuru II.
Yes.
And the information, my lady, as I've just received it, it is as follows. The hospital has 5 communal wards, and each ward has 1 shower and 1 bath. 22 single cells, of which 7 are currently occupied, and the rest are empty. During the night, 2 nursing sisters and 2 security officials are on duty. During the day, 7 nursing sisters and 13 security officials are on duty, including the medical doctor, who is there on a daily basis.
But the medical doctor, if I understand it, is the only medical doctor for the whole prison.
That is correct, my lady.
How many inmates in the prison? In the totality now?
My lady, that total I don't have.
More or less. Not binding you to it. Just give us an idea.
My lady, at Koshimampuru, our totals should be around 7,000.
So there's 1 doctor for 7,000 inmates.
My lady, there's 1 resident doctor. However, we have what we call sessional doctors that are called in. And what we also do in Koshimampuru, there are offenders that are being constantly referred to the clinics and hospitals around Pretoria.
And 5 psychologists for 7,000 inmates.
My lady, the number of psychologists that we have is 5.
For 7,000 inmates, about 7,000.
I think we need to correct, my lady. We have remand detention offenders at Koshimampuru and sentenced. Now, I can be provided with the totals of how many remand and how many sentenced. But importantly, my lady, as I have alluded to earlier, there shall be a determination which offenders would need psychological services. So, not all of offenders are being referred for psychological services. An assessment has to be done, as I have said, in the sentence plan. that this person needs psychological services, therefore it shall be provided to him. So it is not all of the offenders, therefore that shall be referred for those services.
But the inmate, when he feels he needs a psychologist, is that the right?
That's correct, my lady. The offender would indicate that I need a psychologist. He would then approach the unit manager and say, I'm in need of a psychologist, and then that request shall then be forwarded to the psychological head, who will then assign a psychologist to that offender.
I understand, but the numbers don't change. There are 5 psychologists and about 7,000 inmates. The fact that some of them might be awaiting trial does not mean he's not entitled to treatment, not so.
Absolutely, my lady.
Yes, and in that hostel section, you also have awaiting trial persons.
My lady, we might at times have remandees, yes.
I'm told, so that's why I'm asking you, I'm told that the factual position is that there's a mix between awaiting trial and sentenced prisoners. Is that incorrect?
My lady, that is not entirely incorrect. What I'm saying is there are times when we have to also accommodate a remand in that unit. We do that. But maybe to explain, my lady, the hospital unit in Koshimampuru is actually situated inside local correctional center.
And how would that give access to the local, call it the local prison? How would you get in and how would you get out of the hospital section?
My lady, there are entrances.
And free to go in and out?
No, my lady, at each and every gate in a correctional center, there is an official that is posted there.
Yes.
Firstly, to identify who comes in and who goes out. Secondly, to search that person.
And how many patients are there in the hospital section?
My lady, the report that I have is that there are, let me just get it, my lady, I'm sorry. There are 22 single cells in that unit.
No, not the cells.
And
I'm so sorry.
There are only 7 that are occupied currently.
How many patients are there in the hospital section?
My lady, I don't have that information.
You don't know that.
But yeah, what it confirms is that there are 7 that are currently occupied, meaning that there are 7 patients in the single cell accommodation.
And in the communal accommodations?
No, my lady, I don't have that information.
You don't have that. You don't know how many patients. And what do they suffer from, those patients? How many suffer from tuberculosis? Because, and I ask you because I will refer you to a report about tuberculosis in the prisons.
My lady, I do not know what they are suffering from. However, I know our regime with regard to people that are suffering from TB. What kind of treatment we should provide, my lady.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm referring to the National Health Laboratory Services. Found a high rate of undiagnosed TB in our correctional facilities. What do you say about that?
Where are you reading from?
It is from an email that we, internet, dealing with the health, correctional services, my lady. And the only sentence that I take there where it says, refers to, because I try to stay away from inmates and so on, is a report or reported to be the National Health Laboratory Services.
My lady,
would you know about that?
My lady, I'm not aware of that. I think what could be done was to refer to Koshimampuru II.
To refer, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part, Mr. Modise.
I was saying, my lady, the report should be referring to Koshimampuru II, because yes. I'm sure we are talking about Koshimampuru II.
That's why I need assistance from you. That's why I was trying to look at the number of patients, what diseases they suffer from.
My lady, I do not have the number of patients, and I do not have the kind of ailments that they may be suffering from.
Mr. Modise, I need to understand if you're exposed to those patients for a long period, because that's where you will be. What is your exposure to diseases? Between sick people predominantly?
My lady, the Department of Correctional Services has moved on. At institutions like Hoshimampuru, we've got a gene expert machine. Now that gene expert machine, as you enter, you go under it. And then it would indicate what kind of ailments you have. And therefore, a decision shall be taken what kind of treatment you will get. So it is not that everybody would be exposed to tuberculosis. We, with the machines that we have and assistance from Health, Department of Health, we are able to identify risky patients and provide to them treatment. That's why I said, my lady, we have a regime to treat TB cases. And for us, importantly, is isolation.
What machines do you have at the hospital section?
We have a wide range of machines, my lady.
Could you give it to me that I can work on that?
My lady, it would be important that I am provided with all of the machines because my training does not include that. But what I know is that we have a gene expert machine.
And apart from that, any other machines?
I think I've responded to that. I will have to get the machines.
As you said, you don't know.
My lady, I said that there are a number of machines there. I would have to get what kind of machines there are. What I know is that we've got a gene expert machine.
No, because that's what I'm trying to find out. If you expose a person over a long time to hospitalization with ill patients, what is there to protect such a person over a long period of time or a period of time? Not to contract diseases, because you're there where people are there for a specific reason. It's an hospital.
My lady, I have indicated that I'm not aware of what are the ailments that patients are suffering from, but with regard to patients suffering from TB, there is a strict regime that we have to follow with regards to their treatment and isolation.
Yes.
And being a person that has not undergone any training in terms of medical care, my understanding is that those that are trained and responsible for medical care should know that you can't mix this kind of person who is suffering from this kind of disease with other people. This applies to our general hospitals in our community.
Yes. But whatever way we say, there's only one doctor.
My lady, I've indicated that we have one resident doctor, and I've also indicated that our offenders are referred from time to time to clinics, to hospitals around Pretoria. We had offenders that had to undergo treatment at the Pretoria Heart Hospital, at all of the hospitals in Pretoria where we have specific services that are needed by offenders. Our offenders are referred there.
So if there are people in the hospital section that are seriously ill, they could also be taken to another hospital, outside hospital.
That's correct, my lady.
So we don't have to debate that. We may have seriously ill people in the hospital section that will then or could be moved.
My lady, I'm sorry, I'm not debating.
Now, where do you eat when you're in the hospital section? Do you eat separately?
My lady, what happens is food is being brought to the hospital unit, and those that are very sick that cannot stand up, the food is taken to their cells and taken to their beds.
Yeah.
But those that can move are then able to go and get their food from the serving area.
You might mention that the correctional services will allow a private doctor of a patient to come and visit him.
That's correct, my lady.
But that must be at the person's own cost.
That's correct, my lady.
You know, Mr. Medisi, with respect, when there's reality in life. When I go and see a doctor, I will sit in his consulting rooms and I will see him and I will pay for his time. In the case that you're talking about, that professional person must leave his consulting room, must drive to the prison. We all know it takes time to get inside, must see the patient, must go back. It takes a considerable period of time, and it becomes very expensive. It's not a normal consultation rate anymore.
My lady, at this time, in the world, there are these things that are called appointments. An appointment is made, my lady. That would then ease the access to our facility. Once there's an appointment, time is made, the doctor arrives there, he will be allowed without any waste of time. And this applies to any person that visits our facilities. Those people that rock up there without any announcement, those are the people then we have to take through a process of identification, firstly, but also to ensure that the person that they intend to visit has approved such visit. But once there's an appointment, my lady, it doesn't take even 30 minutes.
Mr. Modise, I'm not going to debate with you. We all do jail visit. It takes a long time. You have to go through a lot and you sit and you wait. But that doesn't matter. It's not important. I leave it there. Can I ask you this? And I want to understand your evidence. I'm going to sum it up that there's no misunderstanding. You understand now the case of Mr. Pistorius because you've been briefed in that. Not so.
I do understand the case of Mr. Pistorius.
Your evidence is, in your experience, that it's not suitable to go to the normal or local prison. It's not suitable for you. That's the first step. We've gone through this.
My lady, I want to categorically state this, that once Mr. Pistorius gets admitted in our facility, we shall determine what his health needs are. We shall also determine where to detain him, incarcerate him. So the department shall be given that opportunity to do that kind of assessment. And once from there, if that assessment then concludes that Mr. Pistorius be held in the hospital section, so shall be it.
But you see, Mr. Modise, that's exactly what I was driving to. Before the adjournment, on 2 occasions when I repeated the question, one thing there was no dispute. The normal prison, the local one, that's not suitable to him, but what would be suitable would be the hostel section. That's what you agreed to. Now you come back, and now you say, no, wait, he must actually go through the normal course, and whoever is there will decide where they put him, notwithstanding that the commissioner in court thought that it was not suitable for him. Is that what you say?
My lady, I'm happy that Mr. Roux is saying that there should not be any misunderstanding. When I was taken through this small paper, it talked about assessment on admission. There's nothing that is taken for granted. On admission, if this court rules that Mr. Pistorius be held in a hospital, so shall be it. But what I was saying is the Department of Correctional Services has to do an assessment of what are his needs. And once that has been finalized, he shall then be, if it comes to hospital, yes, we shall put him up in a hospital.
So until such time, if he's just sent to imprisonment, he must go to a place where there are no baths. He cannot go directly to the hostel section. For whatever period we don't know, someone must decide if he's suitable to be sick enough to go to the hostel. Do I understand you?
No, my lady, that is incorrect.
Hold on. Unless I misunderstood, I thought the health assessment happens within 6 hours of admission. Did I get this incorrectly?
Will he know within 6 hours where he's going?
Definitely, my lady.
And if he's not going to the hostel section, where will he go to then?
My
if
lady,
that person doing the assessment feels he must go not to the hostel section, where will he go to?
my lady, I think we jump into conclusions. I can't. The fact of the matter is once the assessment is done and the assessment dictates that he should be held in the hospital, he shall go there.
No, but if the assessment does not say that he, with his disability, must go to the hospital, that's what I'm interested in, Mr. Modise. Where does he go then?
My lady, I think it has been said in this court that Mr. Pistorius has a disability. So ours is to confirm, and ours is to decide, yes, it is true, then we put him up where he's supposed to go.
Shall I repeat my question? If the ruling by whoever the official is that he does not go to the hospital section, where does he go to? Can you tell the court?
My lady, the assessment shall dictate that Mr. Pistorius should go to the hospital unit, so he shall go there.
But how can you say that? You're not doing the assessment.
My lady, it is common knowledge that Mr. Pistorius is a paraplegic person. It's a common knowledge. Everyone knows that.
But I don't want to go there. But I will show you instances where a person that was a paraplegic had to bring a court application. He was not even given a wheelchair. So I know what you say is in the book. I want to deal with reality. Are you saying, Mr. Modise, that we can accept from you that he will go to the hospital section?
Absolutely, my lady.
So it's not necessary to give him an assessment?
No, there shall be an assessment, but I can assure this court that he shall go to the hospital section because we know that Mr. Pistorius is a person with a disability. He put on prosthesis.
And we don't know what the diseases are there. We don't know how many patients are there. And he must then be hospitalized until such time that the correctional services decide to let him go. Is that what you say?
My lady, I don't think that is a fair question because I have indicated that I'm not aware of the ailment that our patients would be suffering from and therefore cannot talk on that as I'm requested to do. So I'm saying, I said I don't know.
I understand. I just want to understand normal understanding. And that is, you want the sentence, if that's the sentence, he must be hospitalized.
My lady is not going to be hospitalized as it is put to me. He's going to be held in that hospital section because he's a person that has a disability, and we, as the Department of Correctional Services, has decided that at Koshimampuru, that is where we keep people that have disabilities.
Yes. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roux. Yes, Mr. Nel?
Mr. Modise, like in every department in this country, you have people that don't follow rules within your organization.
No, that is true, my lady.
Well, I would say like in any organization in this country, there are people that don't follow the rules as they should.
That's correct, my lady.
But you deal with that.
That is correct, my lady.
And if the court would want, there would be lots of disciplinary actions that you've taken against people that would not follow the rules.
Well, that is true, my lady.
But there are many more people dedicated that follow rules in your organization.
Maybe Mr. Nel must rather take the oath because he's giving evidence and it might just go quicker.
Mr. Nel, please rephrase your questions.
I'll rephrase my question. I didn't find that funny. I know that lots of people laugh, but I didn't, Malaysia. I don't think it's time for a joke. As a court pleases. That's just my view. I wanted to say the same thing when Mr. Roux referred to the fact that we all visit prisons. We know it takes long. I thought I could make the same sarcastic comment. I decided not to. I thought that I wouldn't go there. Mr. Modise, the fact of a private practitioner having to wait long, it is whose choice is it to have a private practitioner visiting him?
My lady, the offender who decides to have a private practitioner is the one that decides the person should come. Because he needs to submit, or she must submit a request, and then we inform the private practitioner, and then it goes from there.
If he decides not to, would he be catered for by a practitioner in the prison?
Yes, my lady.
We've heard from Mr. Roo about actions against the department. We're not denying that people approach court against the department. Am I right in saying that?
That's correct, my lady.
And the department, let me ask a question rather. Would the department deal with any application on its merits?
That is correct, my lady.
And has the department done so over years?
That's correct, my lady.
Is it or is it not a guarantee of enforcement of his rights for the person to have access to the high courts in our country to make sure it happens?
That's true, my lady.
It is.
It is.
And so, if Mr. Roo, let me phrase the question, if Mr. Roo would be unhappy with the circumstances, apart from all the complaints provisions, would he be able to approach a high court to enforce his rights?
That's correct, my lady.
And the department will deal with the orders made by high courts?
That is correct, my lady.
I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Nell. Mr. Modise, this is just a general interest question.
Yes, my lady.
On page 3, under assessment, you refer to programs or skill training. I think you call it skills training provided to all offenders.
Yes, my lady.
Are these mandatory or optional?
My lady, in terms of the provision of programs, there are programs that are mandatory that
Yes.
would normally stem from the assessment, but also that a presiding officer might put to correctional services to put in place as well.
So that those which are optional, but if the court feels
There are programs that are
specific
optional.
programs are needed, that's what you would adhere to.
That's correct, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Any questions arising?
Nothing, Madam.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Modise, for your assistance.
Thank-
You may be excused.
Thanks, ma'am.
My lady, I have in the morning indicated to the court that I would need time to consult with the witness.
Yes.
I would motivate again if the court so pleases, but lady, but my request is, and it was covered with Mr. Roux, that we stand down till 2, my lady.
Yes.
And with the proviso, my lady, as we said in chambers, we will be ready to argue tomorrow, and we will finalise argument tomorrow, whatever happens.
Thank you. Mr. Roux?
My lady, but for the fact, if the witness is not called, I can start then directly with the argument after this afternoon.
Okay. All right. We'll decide that when that happens. Court will adjourn.
Are we all present for the block?